South Africa has a total of 17.1 million workers and over 1.3 million work in the public sector. The Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, is the country's largest workers' federation, with labor unions representing the public servants in health, education, safety and security, amongst others. The federation's Matthew Parks says never in the history of South Africa have workers found themselves marking Workers' Day without a budget.
About 31% of the budget goes towards the public service wage bill. More than 2 decades ago, that was about 40%. Over the last 15 years, it is about 35%. And in the last 2 years, actually decreased to just under 32%, so about 31%. So it's been decreasing quite a bit. That's really having a significant impact upon the capacity of the state, because ultimately you need warm bodies to deliver public services. You need teachers in classrooms, police officers on the streets, nurses in hospitals. And, since 1994, the population has nearly doubled to 64 million from 34 million. The public service headcount has remained static at about 1.2 million. So we've seen the ratio of teachers to learners, of nurses and doctors to patients, of police officers to society doubling in the last 30 years. So that's had a huge impact upon the ability of the state to deliver quality public services.
Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana announced a 23 billion rand additional funding to cover the 5.5% public servant salary increase in the next 3 years, paving the way for a salary increase on the 1st of this month. The Federation of Unions of South Africa, FEDusa, has about 500,000 members among the public servants. FEDusa's Rifta Ajam says the recent withdrawal of the previous budgets has renewed the hopes of many that government will address their needs. The Federation wants some of the key progressive items in the February budget to be retained.
We have to expand the capacity of the state, especially under the South African Revenue Services, to continue to piggyback off the fact that we are now enhancing the ability and the capabilities of SARS to augment and to supersize tax collection and revenue collection. It has been well documented by the commissioner at the stage of SARS, Commissioner Kieswetter, that they have made good grounds. And we have to acknowledge the fact that workers, public servants in this instance, have been doing their dues. So we have to acknowledge what is there currently and how we advance on these mandates. So any discussions about further austerity has to be scrapped.
The South African Policing Union, Sabu, hopes that the new budget to be tabled will incorporate many of their demands, particularly on the review of the danger allowance. Sabu spokesperson Lisiba Tobagale says their members are under siege, lamenting the cases of police killings.
The law enforcement at large, not only specifically to the police, our law enforcement, starting from the SABC members, going to Metro Police, Traffic Police, Border Management Authority, members working at DCS and private security, indeed they are under attack when we look at the dangers that they are faced with. And that on its own, it remains to be our firm position that government has not been decisive. I mean, we've been making a call for police killings to be declared treason.
COSATU also reflected on the country's policies that speak to workers' issues, saying although the country has clear labor laws, more still needs to be done.
Look, we can't go back in time. We can't abandon the transformation journey because we look at all of our socio-economic indicators, we have still got so far to go. So employment equity remains relevant. When you look at the employment equity reports, which show that 60% plus of senior management positions, especially in the private sector, are still held by white, mostly men, yet white men are only 4% of society. When you look at the ownership of the means of production, the economy, of arable land, productive land, and so forth, it remains largely white-owned. So as long as you're not making progress on that front, then those policy prescripts remain relevant. But what we would agree at times that we need to adjust some policy interventions.
There have also been calls for the unity of workers against, among others, exploitation both in the public and the private sector. Katlego, Legodi, SABC News in Johannesburg.